even with the price increases and the craft time increases, right? Aquamaris are still way better than anything else. So I've been buying them off the fleet. I actually bought two for some of my buddies as well, and like threw them on the floor in one of the raids that we did, and just was like, right, put this up your butt, boys. We're in here for the long haul. Um, which
Just to give you
you can't say to your friends in many games, to be fair. So
welcome to ScavTalk, an escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on the continued development of the game, patch note analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I do video editing for a content creator who plays Tarkov named Airwing Marine.
and I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber myself, helping you guys get better at the game and producing educational videos. And welcome to ScavTalk again. How are you, Church?
Welcome
What's
back.
been going on?
I'm good. Same old, working, gaming, build. I got a gamer desk now in the
Gamer desk?
background. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
look at
that's right.
that.
Gamer branded desk, dude. It's pretty crap to be honest. but
Have you always had all the
but
purple lighting?
I got multiple lightings. It's a multiple LED. Yeah. I was
Hmm.
gonna record I'm working on a video. I just like God, I've been working on that video for so long. And it's just one of those work in progress things. I was
Yeah.
gonna shoot it today, but it just ended up not happening. So
That's how it,
is
yeah,
what it is.
exactly. You're very RGB gaming in the background there. It's good. It's good. People always talk about RGB gaming chairs, and I actually didn't even realize that you can buy them. They do exist.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it was just a joke, and I looked them up, and
No,
they
it's
do exist. I was
unfortunately.
Yeah, I was saddened to realize that they are a real thing. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you said to me before that you hadn't been playing a great deal. This week specifically, you've been busy doing like videos and other bits and
Yeah,
pieces, right?
yeah.
I've been playing somewhat. I wouldn't say a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, I said to you before, but like I was playing a bit with some IRL buddies who are kind of getting back into the game and sort of like semi-sherpering, kind of like helping out with quests and that kind of stuff. And it's nice. Actually, I don't mind helping other people out because it's kind of fun. It just like gives you something to go and do that you're not like necessarily specifically invested in. So it's almost like the protect the president. We talked about this before when we were talking about like
Protect
the
the
guide, I
president.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like when you're helping someone with the guide, the bodyguard has a lot more fun because you're kind of like in
Yes.
there like risk free, so to speak. It just kind of, if
Yes.
people come up on you, you're like the one who's like can take all the dangerous plays and whatnot because you're not really
Yeah.
that, you're not as invested in it, and you're trying to like save your pals. You'll pull off like crazy stuff that you wouldn't otherwise normally as well, even because you're kind of your sense of self-preservation's gone. So there's an element to that, and I've been getting them into reserve a little bit. Like no one's really played reserve except for me, and so we've been doing that and actually playing more in the tunnels because everyone's got that first quest.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to go around all the entrances, and like I tend to play a lot more above ground and over in the train station and stuff. So it's been fun, and actually like been killing people and things. It's been decent, and I guess like yeah, I've basically just continued been loving the P90. I think I speak last week about the P90, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oh my god, it's honestly at this point in the wipe, it's absolutely insane. It's unreal. It's an unreal weapon. It's good. It's in the video that is going out tomorrow because it's just like
Nice.
it's just mental. It's mental. Like if you can get to Peacekeeper 3, if you can push yourself through and get there, like you just kill everybody because you can buy SS190 from the guy. You can do the barter for two military cables. You get the P90 with the rail on top, and then you can just put a red dot straight on it. Buy the 50 rounders. You can buy SS190 at like $3.50 a pop or something or whatever. I think it's 4.15 actually. And you just run around killing everybody because not many people have like meta guns at the moment, and so people do they will like fire if you're in an engagement. People will like fire at you and like miss enough shots that they have to reload, and then you just continue walking down the corridor and just hose them with the final 20 in your gun, and they die. It's been really good. It's honestly been really good. The number of people I've killed whilst they've been reloading is insane because normally you'd both have to reload. But with the P90, you just keep firing, just keep firing.
Just
It's
hold
been
mouse one, baby.
exactly. So it's been great. It's been great actually. I've been enjoying it. It's decent. It's decent. And I guess yeah, news. The new event is probably the big topic. Um,
Yeah.
which has been interesting to play through, I suppose. I guess yeah, we should probably. Well, did you want to start with that, or did you want to go on start with some other like game changes rather than the events specifically?
No, I mean let's do
We
the
do the
heat
heat
event.
event.
Let's
Okay, yeah. So
that's I gotta say, really glad that they are doing this. Okay. There were some people that were like, guys, is this a pre-wipe event? Which is absolutely oh my god, too funny, too funny, too funny.
yes, I
There
thought
was
that
even a
was hilarious.
great clickbait from Bake Easy, who's like the YouTube clickbait for Tarkov content. It's just like he's like, "Oh my god, is this a pre-wipe event?" And like the title, it's like, oh, I love Bake Easy for that. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm really glad they're doing this, this whole like dynamic events during the period, the wipe cycle. I think it's great.
Yeah,
This one in
definitely.
particular is heat stroke edition. I don't know. What would you? It's just like the
It's like
temperature's been cranked up to 100.
yeah, like heat wave in
Mm,
Novinsk. I can't remember what the province is called.
yeah, whatever.
But heat wave in
Somewhere in
Tarkov
Russia.
anyway, and it's been
Right,
pretty
there's
hot
something in my eye.
across. It's been pretty hot across Europe in general. I think that's like kind of maybe what gave me the idea too, because
Mm,
I've been like baking my ass off here for like the last like couple of weeks. It's gone back to normal again. You can see by my my jumper
yeah,
and stuff. Things have kind of settled down, which is good. But it was pretty uncomfortable here for a while for our standards anyway. We're just not ready for it. Not in the UK. We're just not used to it. Um,
yeah.
sun comes out for more than about 3 hours, and we all bake alive. But yeah, it's been pretty hot, and I think that's kind of incentivized them to put some stuff in the game like this. And yes, I've seen like again, like people always complain, oh, that we want events, and then oh no, but not this kind of event, not ones where I have to drink 6 bottles of water, and it's not. I don't know. I
Were
like.
people actually complaining about it?
Oh yeah, I've seen people on Twitter complaining and on Reddit complaining and stuff, but I'm really hoping it's the minority because somebody put a post up somewhere that I read that I thought really summed it up, which was like the events aren't necessarily supposed to be like fun specifically. They're supposed to be
Yeah, yeah,
disruptive, which I think is great, right? Because like anything, like you read the stories as like people who just like didn't have any water left and they're like really screwed. People who've like just accidentally hoarded like 50 aquamaris and they're like millionaires. It's like I
yeah,
just love like the random like it's
yeah.
just
You just
something
never know.
happens. Yeah, you just don't know, and something happens, and then like some people like benefit from it, and other people lose out. And it's like they didn't make it too harsh. Like they made it, water a bit more expensive, but you can get it from therapists still. And I know it's 3 per thingy, but
Well,
and they do sell out as
they
well.
they just remove water from therapists.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that. I haven't actually
Yeah,
played today. The last
that's
time I played was last
today,
night. Okay.
which is
Hmm.
Friday.
Well, that is kind of mean. That's a little bit mean because I've been buying like even with the price increases and the craft time increases, right? Aquamaris are still way better than anything else. So I've been buying them off the flea. I actually bought two for some of my buddies as well, and like threw them on the floor in one of the raids that we did, and just was like, right, put this up your butt, boys. We're in here for the long haul. Um, which
Just to give you
you can't say to your friends in many games, to be fair. So
just to give you an idea, the 6 ounce or whatever the regular water 60 ounce 60 water bottle is going for 33K on the flea market,
mm-hmm.
and the Aquamari is going for 42K. So prices have kind of climbed even more.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, right? Aquamaris are like way better value for what they give you.
Oh,
It's like
100%,
crazy. I don't know
100%.
who would even buy a normal bottle off the flea for 30K.
If
People who don't
that's
know, basically. It's like people who
th-
don't realize. Like,
that's or that's all you could afford. I
I
mean, that
mean,
would
but it's
probably be
like
like,
7K difference, no?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think people
sure.
just don't know the Aquamari exists because if you haven't gone through the
Possibly.
game before, there's definitely certain things like I didn't realize about the Aquamari for a long time, and also it's slightly
Yeah.
misleading, right? Because you're like, oh, in normal times anyway,
Yes.
you're like, oh, it's more expensive, but it's got 150, it's fine. And then when you actually buy one, you're like, actually, it holds 350 on the inside, and because it's
Yes.
basically the first time you use it, and you're like, let me just refill 50 of my hydration, uses 50, and it's just
That's a
like,
good point.
because you only have to use 20, and it refills, 50 hydration or something. So aquamaris are like the stealth. They're like the stealth hydration like
Why
craziness.
would I mean, why would they code like present it like that? That kind of doesn't make any sense.
I know. I don't really know. And they present it in a weird way too. It's like 350 for total hydration for 150 as well. So it's like a really odd
Yeah,
ratio. It's like super weird. It's not quite 2 times. It's a little bit more than 2 times. So if you
yeah,
use
that is
30,
very
you'll get
odd.
like 60. I can't do the maths in my head, but you do get like what 68 or something back. I don't know. It's weird.
Right.
But
I
but
never
they are
really questioned
legit.
it
Yeah, and they're
until
the best
now.
thing. They're the best thing for water. I haven't really well, I've actually been selling all the other drinks for a while now. Um Actually that reminds me of something else. Maybe we'll talk about it in a bit, but just like metabolism. Which is I think is actually different this wipe, and I've noticed it, and I kind of noticed it in the back of my mind, and then saw some people talking about it. But we can talk about that in a sec. But I mean, yeah. So look, I think in summary, the heat event is good in and of itself. Is it that great, like individually? Well, look, it's fine. It mixes the game up. Interesting stuff happens. Like people go, oh, all it does is mean that I need to click a few more buttons and bring more water in, and it's just annoying. It's like, well, no, it's not about that, right? It's about like it's making you think about stuff. It's making you think like, how long is a raid? How long do I have to be in there? Do I have to drink? Do I have to go and find water? Do I want to bring it in with me? And then it changes prices on the flee. Like what happens to bottles of water went from therapist with a 3 cap and then they sell out. Then what happens to prices? What about aquamaris? What if you make the craft time 24 hours? It's like there's lots of impacts like the BSG can look at and kind of test things and just see how people respond. And I find Tarkov really interesting that way, that it's such an information game, but because people don't really know all the information, there's like a very broad spectrum of like different experience levels. You get things like the water thing there, which if it was an open and free kind of system or whatever, you'd be able to like do something. But because you can only ever buy stuff, you just avoid buying the one that's more expensive. But people who don't know just end up buying water, so you end up with 33 versus 40k. And it's like clearly the better option is the Aquamari, but people still do the other one because they don't realize. So I find that kind of like information gap interesting in its own like pocket, like how players respond to changes in the economy, and they respond suboptimally. It's actually an interesting point on its own because you don't necessarily like know what all the possible choices are if you're not a veteran. You haven't gone through like multiple wipes and seen all the items before. So it's good. I think I'm glad they're doing it, and they should do more of it because I like the disruption and I like how it gets mixed up and makes you think about stuff and think like, okay, does this impact me? What do I have to do? And it makes you make different choices, and it's good. And it even affects the secure container, church. It even affects the secure container. You got to you bring in your water in and stuff, and it's like, what do I prioritize that over something else maybe, or
That's
whatever.
probably for me the most interesting change, if you will, but
Mm.
interesting I'm gonna use loosely because all it just means is you just put the water in the container and it kind of just solves all the problems. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's just like I don't want to like bash on it. I like the concept of like shaking up. It's kind of reminds me of like Dota 2 and how they would have like these patches and there's like maybe there's no new content, but they just take all the like mechanics and they just like start twisting dials, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like and the game feels so fresh and new. Um but it's just like for me, when I look at a change like this, it's like okay, how can I like the gamer in me is like how can I circumvent this change? Well, I just buy an Aquamari and put it in my container,
yeah,
It's just like problem see just I don't see how like this is gonna like it's not gonna drive me to go and loot like search for water unless I'm the player who is level 19 that can't get the flea market.
yeah,
They can't get water, you know what I mean? Then yeah, like that's great. Like I wish I was 19, because then I'm actually having to like that's like a change that's like directly impacting my decision making. Like that's directly driving player behavior. Like could you imagine like what if there was like I don't have a map, but, like, there was, like, a water well or something on the map, And,
yeah,
and it's been there forever, and then all of a sudden this heat wave comes in, and then, like, now everyone's just congregating and fighting over this one resource, like, that'd be so cool. But it's just, like that's to me, that's just not the case, it's not the reality, like, maybe some
yeah,
players are doing that especially those who are, like, below level 19 or 20 rather. But I feel like for everyone else that's above 20, you're just gonna put the thing in your container and continue looting whatever, and then you just at water costs more now, It's I don't know,
yeah,
it's just to me, there's like a it's a bit of a shortcoming of not necessarily the event, um, but I guess just how the event interacts with all the other systems, if you will.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the BSG will hopefully learn from these events and putting them on and seeing what happens and that kind of stuff, and seeing what players' feedback is and taking the good ideas. Because I know Nikita on various podcasts says that, searches through, reads everything that people are saying and gets ideas and that kind of stuff. So rather than
Hmm.
naively just implementing something like this, where it says, what we've done is made water more expensive and we have made PMCs drain water faster. They need to think about the secondary implications, which I think they will learn over time. If they're really committed to doing this properly, they'll learn over time what the secondary
Yeah,
effects might be and be able to predict some of these in the first place. Like, imagine if instead they had just like made water just not sellable on the flea market, then everybody would be in the same situation and then everyone would have to go and find it. So just
yeah.
delete all, no aquamaris, no apple juice, nothing that has a hydration element to it.
It's just
All
gone
gone.
from
All of it's gone.
yeah,
And that would be very different. It'd be like there's a complete like shortage. No one has it,
yes,
and it's like it's fake, right? Because you technically could have it, and you're just not allowed to sell it. But that's
right,
like
right.
just what they way they implement it, or like even something more. I was thinking like because that was the second idea that I had, which is that easier to do. Um, which I thought might be quite interesting because then, yeah, as you say, it switches and fixes that like level 20 thing, so that if you're above level 20, you still have to like go and think, crap, I have all this gear, and this is the beauty, right? You have all this gear and all this money if you're above 20, which you probably do because you've sold a bunch of stuff on the fleet at this point. But
Hmm.
if you don't have anything to drink, you can't really raid because you're just going to be in and you're like thirsty straight off the bat, right? So you've got to go and do it, and it's a player-driven quest because you have to go and find the water. You decide how you're going to go and do it. But
Yeah,
it's a necessity for you to go and
it's
find it yourself, right? And you're
yeah,
like, well, you could just not do it, but it's and maybe stumble upon it, but then you're like taking the risk that you don't find any, and then you're like
yes.
scrabbling to the exit, all of this stuff, right? So
That's
it makes it really
that's what
interesting.
makes it interesting. Yes.
Exactly. And then the first idea that I had was like much more complicated, but it's also something that they could do in theory is like, it's really, really hot. And then maybe the weight of your gear, like if you're too exposed, maybe if you're wearing like nothing, then
Yeah.
you get like, I don't know, you get sunburned or something. I don't know. So maybe it's the same if you're wearing nothing. You have to wear like clothing that like covers the body but is light or something. Like people were
Hmm.
talking about the like some of the hats. There's like the Panama hat and things like that, which would like decrease
Sorry.
the amount of like you know water dehydration speed that
Yeah.
you'd have or something. So, but which means you can't wear a helmet anymore. And so you're like, right, well, do I want to wear like the door kicker boonie hat or something, or do I actually want to wear a helmet? And then you're kind of making a choice. Like you can't wear an armored rig that weighs 15 kilos because that really will just destroy your water. Like you can't be in that in like 35-degree heat. There's just no way. Whereas if you're wearing, I don't know, packer is fine, or if you're wearing something else that's kind of like lighter, it's okay. So like
Yeah. That'd be
you'd
really
have to then make
interesting.
a risk reward decision about like how
Right.
heavy armor do I wear and like how heavy is it versus what I do. So that was like the first idea, but that's more complex. I think just deleting water off the flea makes more interesting like player choices, and is very easy to do. So I hope that they learn from this kind of thing and like realize that like because that's the thing, they just need to think a few steps ahead, and I think that's maybe I don't know whether they have like I don't know whether they do this already. Like speak to I know like speaking to streamers is like a well, you're basically going to get burnt at the stake if you suggest this as an idea. But like people who play the game a lot think like with us and even more so the guys who play it full time and the people who will immediately just be
Hmm.
like, right, well, I'll just buy an Aquamara and keep in my case, right? And so like I feel like maybe they do need to get a couple of these ideas beforehand and say, what do you think will happen if we do this? What's going to happen? And they'll say, we'll just go on the flea and buy this stuff, and then it won't matter for us anymore. And then they go, okay, fine, we'll fine. Well, maybe we'll delete it from the fleet then. Like it's that kind of thing. But like if you don't play a lot, then you might not
Yeah.
necessarily be able to think like on those next stages and see. So hopefully they're either like learning from it or can just like speak to some players. They don't need to do what they say. They just need to get some inspiration from what would you do
Yeah.
if this event happened? Oh, I would do X, Y, Z.
Right.
Okay. Well,
It's like
we need to counter it in some way.
it's like alpha testing the idea before you release it to the
Sort
beta
of,
stage.
yeah. And
Yeah.
maybe they do that. I don't know. But as you say, I think that the event is like it's cool. I like they're doing it. It's really like a
Yeah.
massive good step in the right direction. Maybe it's implemented in a little bit of a naive way. Possibly. Could it be implemented in a better way? Also, probably. Um, but I think I think it's fine. I think it's fine as the first go, and they'll hopefully
First
read all the
go, yeah.
stuff and make them more nuanced as time goes on. We can't expect them to come up with like you know super nuanced, like they thought of all of the like the fringe ramifications, because it's difficult, right? Like sometimes it's hard to think all of the secondary effects of what you're going to do is going to have. But you get better at it over time, I think. So well, we'll see. We'll see how they do.
Yeah.
We'll see how they do.
I mean, this kind of reminds me of the fuel crisis that happened. I feel like it's kind of the same situation where it's like, oh, I'll just camp the trader reset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and to your point, you were saying how, option A, they could, or as I would say, like the real crux of the issue, if you will, is that once you unlock the flea market, you just have the ability to circumvent it essentially.
Yeah.
You don't drive the behavior to loot, go and raid and find the thing. The status quos remain the same. You just go buy it from someone that's selling it. You know what I mean? Someone that did
Yeah.
loot it. And even anyways, um, and then the other thing you were saying is like, well, what if they just deleted the ability to like get it from the menus, if you will?
Yeah.
And so like to me, it's like it highlights that the issue is not necessarily the events, anything related to event, it's more of like the foundation that the event's been laying on top of. And
Yeah.
so if they wanted to like fix that, they could do that route you were suggesting where you just like delete the ability, which I would like. I mean, I know maybe not everyone would like, but I would just love to like shake up the monotony of let me go loot anyways, I won't beat a dead horse, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, just the last word on it, I guess, is like it
Mhm.
would also be interesting because like newer and less experienced players typically tend to be the ones going around looting, doing scav runs, finding stuff, whatever. It'd be quite funny to
Right.
have like the chads are just like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go to like, Goshan or something and try and find some
Yeah.
water. Like this is crazy, like rather than
Yeah.
just going around killing people, it's like I've actually got to go and find some water and kind of forces them to do something a bit different. Which is I think that's good because yeah, it doesn't change necessarily the play style of the inexperienced players and the newer players, but it certainly changes kind of the goals of more experienced players who normally just buy their stuff off the flea, hydrate themselves
Right.
back up and then run
Right.
back in. I mean, because effectively what we're doing, right, is we're turning it into hardcore, but just for water. That's what we're doing by deleting it from the flea. That's all we're doing. We're deleting the flea market, but just for water for this event in particular, which is
Yeah.
interesting. So yeah, should we move on to the next things? I think you have all the information about the next stuff.
Do I?
You
Yeah, so
indeed.
they just added some new barters and stuff. Um, Mostly on Jaeger. I got the game open. Let me just pop them open. So like
Yeah,
this
because
was
I
this
haven't
was
had a chance to
interesting.
see it yet.
So one of the first barters they added was a Vepr Hunter barter. So you get
Ooh.
you level 1 Jaeger, you input 2 hunters and they got to be functional,
Mhm.
and you get 1 upper receiver hunter. Does that make sense?
Just the upper. Oh, sorry,
Just the upper.
the lower, like the base piece.
Yeah, yeah, whatever
Hmm.
just the gun, no stock, no
That
mag.
is very interesting because that ties in very heavily to the video I released last week. Because the reason why I thought the hunter is now dog poop is because they're all like 50% durability and you can't shoot anything at range. And the real hunters that you buy from Jaeger, like no one finds real hunters now. Like they're very rare to get hunters with 100% durability. It's very rare. And buying them off Jaeger, it's like 45k. You can just buy another gun. Like there's no need to buy the hunter. Right? The reason why the hunter was so great was because they were 25,000, 30,000, and had full durability. Whereas now they're 15k, but they suck because they're really low durability. So the ability to buy two, put them together to get. I guess you need to buy. Does this really help then? You need to buy three, right? Because you need to buy two and combine them, and then you need a third one so you can transport all the parts over. I reckon it's probably cheaper to buy a third hunter and move all the bits than it is. There's no barrel though. I'd need to look at it. I'd need to look at it and see whether it's worth it. It would have to be less than 45,000. So I'm not sure if that's really going to help or not. But yeah, I'll need to see it. It's interesting because the hunter
Yeah,
durability
so
thing is the
it's
problem.
right. So the hunters are around 20K right now, so they've gone up in price.
Okay.
'Cause I think you said they were like 10K.
It was
The
honestly
scav
they were like
hunter.
12,000 or
That's
something at one
that's
point. They were like
insane.
it was mental.
That's insane and scary because if you just like used it as like a close quarter M61, cannon, like, oh my, that's actually terrifying to think
Yeah.
about. So now you could for 40K you could get, but see, here's the problem that I was noticing is that you need level 2 Jaeger to get the stock to make it functional.
Yeah.
And the stock you get is the better one, like the one
Oh,
that
the
gives
SVD
you better
one.
stats.
SVD style one.
Yes, yes,
Mm.
yes. No vendor actually sells the regular stock, at least that I could find. They might have changed it recently, but I didn't see it. So you technically would need to get 3 hunters,
Yeah.
because then you need the gas tube, which I think the gas tube you can get from the vendor. The stock's kind of the issue, unless of course you have Jaeger too, which isn't too asking too much. I don't know, because then you would have, I don't know. It's interesting. It's
That's an interesting
interesting.
one. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to see how that affects. And maybe they'll like change it a bit to make it a little bit more better. We'll say.
What's the
Um,
stock on Jaeger 1?
the other one they added was a dog tag level 1 Jaeger. You can get 3 flash drives and get a dog tags case. Which
Okay.
is okay, I guess. I don't know if you'll be getting that many like that many flash drives because you need 2 for skier and then 3 for Jaeger a little bit later on.
Mm. That
So this
should
kind of
drive
seems
up the prices of
the prices
flash
have
drives on
gone
the
up.
market, I would think,
Yeah.
because they were only 30
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. About 32K, now they're about 60K roughly.
That kind of makes sense.
And then
That
I would
makes sense.
imagine I'm gonna check in the hideout real quick. The crafting components. I imagine those will probably go up as well.
Yeah, they should have.
Um,
I didn't think that
Probably
craft ever really made
SSD.
sense, to be honest. I don't think I. Oh, did I used to
Mm,
do that? I used to buy flash drives and turn them into intelligence, I think. I never used to do it the other way. I never used to make flash drives.
I think you made a little bit of money.
Okay.
I don't think the prices have really changed that much.
Hmm.
Maybe SSD's gone up. I'm not too sure. Um, I
Okay.
might do that. Unfortunately, I got a 55-day craft going on in my Intel Center. Intel Center crafts take
55
so
day.
long. I'm exaggerating, of course, but yeah, they take so long.
They do. They really, really do. I think it's quite good though. I like the crafts that they've taken a long
The
time for. I
crafts.
finally made the third GPU. I got one GPU from a quest
Hmm.
finally made, and then I made two in the intelligence center. And my God, it takes a long time.
Yeah, it
Which I
does.
think is
It's
fine. I actually
fine.
think it's all
Yeah,
right.
it's not a big deal.
Honestly, it's okay. If you're completing quests with stuff in the hideout, like it can take a long time. There should be an opportunity cost of doing so, right? You block your thing out for like a week to complete the
Yeah.
quest. Like it's all right because it happens without you having to do anything. It's fine and make it expensive too. You know, it's okay. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Any others? What else has come through?
A couple more. I don't know how much they really matter. I mean, we already talked about therapists not selling water anymore. There was an M700 level 2 Jaeger for you trade a beard oil and you get a M700. Um, which I think that's like kind of a profit thing. Like you instead of buying them to have 700 off the flea market or brand new, you can like buy the beard oil off the flea market and save a little money there if you prefer that sniper. Let me make sure there wasn't anything else on level 1 Jaeger, no. Serve kit for a vase, level 2 Jaeger, and then you can get a grizzly for a clock, level 2 Jaeger.
Okay.
And there might have been some more. I don't have level 4 Jaeger. Level 3 Jaeger, you can get the thermal reflex sight, the new one, the really crappy one
Huh.
for a moonshine. I don't know if that's worth it all, but
I would think
it's there for
not.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely not. I just checked. Definitely not. That's a big loss on some rubles. Don't do that, boys and girls. Do not do that one. I think there was a key. Ollie Logistics Department, yes. So level 3 Jaeger
Uh,
for 4 matches, 2 Serve L lighters, those little orange lighters, and 1 defuel. You can get the logistics key for that quest because it doesn't have a spawn. I think that key just doesn't like it doesn't have a hard spawn. It can
yeah.
spawn
I
in jackets.
I think I paid through the ass for that one.
Yeah, I
Honestly.
paid a pretty penny.
Yeah.
So that barter seems pretty good.
Sounds
I'm
good.
checking out the prices. Yeah, that seems like a really good barter.
Hmm.
So get on that. That will probably save you some money, unless it spikes by the time this goes live on YouTube's anyways.
possibly.
I think that was like the majority. The other news thing quickly I'll mention was the MK47 has been
Yeah.
nerfed. The price has been bumped up from 80K to 100K,
Hmm.
and then it was on Skier 3 and now it's Skier 4.
I'm very, very sad.
Yours because did you just unlock Skier 3?
Yes. Like today.
Oh no.
And I wasn't playing. I literally went into the hideout to do some stuff, and I was like, actually, I can just bump because I've had Skier 3 in theory for ages. I just don't really buy that much soft Skier, so I didn't have the money with him,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, you know what, I'll do that. And then I got Skier 3 and was like, okay, fine. Now I can get the Mark 47, and then it's just like Mark 47 moved to Skier 4, and I was like, yeah,
Ripped.
so that's that, but never mind. It looks
Yeah.
good. It looks so good. I would still use
It's
it.
I I mean, they nerfed the I don't know if we talked about this last time, but
I
they
think we
did nerf
did.
the recoil stats a bit.
Mm. It still looks
Um,
really good, even after the
it's
nerf.
pretty good. I'm about to open up my meta preset, you know what I'm saying? Check out them stats. I don't know what it is. It just feels like it's a laser beam, man. Like
It's
I don't know
because
if it's
it's
like the rate of
650
fire.
RPM. Definitely, it's
Is
because it's
that
650
why?
RPM. It must be. It absolutely has to be. It's because like the AKMs, right? Like the best that you could get the AKMs to is like the mid 50s, and they felt like decent, right? And they're running at like 600.
Decent, but I personally never like the well, I'll say the old AKMs. Um Like, back when the AKM was meta, because
Yeah,
then it switched to the 103 for 7.62 by 39. Used
yeah,
to be AKM was the meta, and
yeah.
then the 103 got buffed. But
Mhm.
back to the old AKMs, it was like, maybe you could get it, like, in the 50s? I
Yeah.
wanna say, like, 60 was, like, more the average, and it
Oh,
just I
definitely.
don't
Like
know.
you could get them to like 50. I can't remember exactly what the number was. It was like 57 or something. It was like the meta recoil. I don't remember what it was
Yeah,
exactly. And then for some reason they nerfed them. I don't know why. It was when they changed all the attachments and they accidentally nerfed like the
that's
Zhukov bar
right.
and stuff.
Like,
And then the best
yeah,
that you could make was like 66, and they were just really bad. They just felt awful. They felt
they
really
felt
bad to me.
really bad. They were, like,
Yeah,
jumpy, like,
yeah,
it would just jump up and left and right too
yeah,
much.
yeah. It was bad. And then they made them a bit better again, and I think those are still mid 50s now. I think they're still high 50s, like 56 or something. But like, there's a big difference between 50 something, because the thing is, right, you can use an M4 at 50 recoil, like it's usable. It's not really a problem. So the AKM's like, because each shot is kind of chunky, I feel like you get quite a lot of. They do feel quite jittery because each shot is quite a big jolt, but
Mm,
overall the
mhm.
recoil is fairly stable. But if you take that to like 35, like honestly, like it's insane.
So they give
Like,
you
it's crazy.
actually, let's pull up. I'm gonna build a 103 meta preset. Unfortunately, I don't have any of my old presets. Darn you, BSG. Curse you.
What's the Is the Zukov stock still the meta one?
Well, for the
I'm not sure
103,
if
you
it's necessarily
can't.
best, but it's got good for ergo. I think the way to make the meta now, I think, is that you go like you have to get one of the buffer tubes. I think you have to do. Can you get Mesa Cross on the 103? I don't remember.
Mesa
If you
Cross. What's a Mesa Cross?
there's this that's like the super buffer tube, like the hyper super crazy one that goes on
Oh, I don't think so.
all sorts
No,
of ones.
no.
But I think you can get one of the other ones. You can get like the SI Advance on it or something if you get the back piece, because that's how you get like
I
the
don't
Metarist
think it's.
version. I think.
Is that how you do it? I don't
I think
remember.
it's min recoil. I think that's how you get min recoil. But
Okay.
it's been a while actually. It's been a while since I've used like a fully meta AKM or
So I
103.
got a 103 here. I don't know if it's the best in slot, but 57 vertical, 139 horizontal. And then the Mark 47 that I got here. And this isn't even like the lowest recoil you can go. It's just like the balance of like the high ergo, high recoil, or decent
Yeah.
reduction. Where's it at? See, this is what I think's the difference maker. It's 44 recoil vertical, but 108 horizontal.
Mm,
That's like 30 points horizontal difference. And it
yeah.
just feels It just feels so smooth.
And this was my theory before that I have mentioned previously that I've not tested, but I still
Mhm.
suspect that the slower fire rate weapons feel
Yeah.
worse on horizontal.
Yeah. I
And this
think
is
so.
50 more, so it's still, but it's still in that same ballpark, I think, because of this kind of like, we talked previously about like vertical recoil is asymmetric, horizontal
Mhm.
recoil is symmetric, because
Right.
vertical recoil only goes up, whereas
Yeah.
horizontal recoil can bounce either side, which is why the number needs to be bigger. Because if you shot all your bullets simultaneously with an infinite mag, you'd expect the point not to move anywhere. If you had an infinite fire rate and an infinite magazine, the point would just
Mhm.
stay right in the center, wouldn't move. So
Right.
the fastest, so that's like taking it to its logical extreme, right? If you have one bullet and it bounces one side, that's like, the sort of the most extreme, because like, and so the less rounds you're shooting in a particular time frame, the more kind of like, well, I don't know what's the word, variance or something on the
Yeah, I know what
horizontal
you're saying.
movement that you're likely to get. You might get unlucky, 2 shots in a row, the horizontal goes in the same direction twice in a row. You know what I mean? Whereas like
Or
the
what
fast
if the opposite of what you're saying happened? Because it's shooting so fast, could you get unlucky and have 3 ticks on the right side?
you could, but it happens in a shorter time. It happens over a shorter time frame, and so I feel
Okay.
like in one particular burst, because you end up firing so quickly, you end up not necessarily seeing it, because by the time you're trying to correct for it, it's already pulled back the other way.
Yeah.
Um,
Good point.
and that's my theory. I've never actually tested
Yeah.
it, but that is my
Yeah,
theory
that's
on
an
it.
interesting one.
I think the slower the time goes, I think you get like a greater sort of variance of horizontal recoil. You're subjected to more chance.
Mhm.
And the faster the fire rate, the less chance there is, and the more of an average it is. And so it ends up feeling better. And that's my theory anyway. So
Yeah.
I need some way of maybe I need some way of testing that at some point.
Yeah.
Thinking of thought experiments.
Hmm.
One for the notepad. Anyway, so that's the Mark 47 that I'm still yet to use. Can't buy because it's been moved just out of reach again. Well, not again, but it was Skier 3, which I just got to, and then it's been bumped one step out of reach. And I haven't done Punisher 5 either yet, so I can't buy BP. Although I did notice BP is actually the same price on the flea as it is with Prapor, which is quite interesting. So it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter getting there anymore. I guess you're better off crafting it. I don't know.
Um, Possibly, especially if you craft the green gunpowder yourself.
Yeah,
You
because
sort
I
of,
craft
like,
green
double
gunpowder anyway,
stack.
because I know that it's just
Yeah.
easy to do, and you can buy the stuff with the traders. And it's green. One of the big benefits of green gunpowder. Actually, I know this is a random point, but like one of the things I really like about it is it's like the perfect way to just slowly convert dollars into rubles. You
Yeah,
take
yeah,
dollars, you
that's a
buy the
good point,
grenades, and then
actually.
you sell the green gunpowder for rubles, and it's like continuous churn, slowly running down your dollars. Because it's not
Yeah.
sometimes you end up with loads of dollars, and you're like, man, how am I going to get rid of these? I don't necessarily just want to buy. It was like when everybody was getting the crazy amount of dollars from the scav extract at the end in the pre-wipe, and
Yeah.
everything out of Peacekeeper was sold out. Literally every item
Yeah.
completely sold out because everyone's just like buying everything from him and selling them all to the other traders for rubles. I thought that was hilarious. That was super, super funny. It's like those unintended consequences, right? Oh, let's just give everybody loads of dollars, and it's just like everyone goes to buy all the Peacekeeper stuff to do the conversion because you can only convert rubles to dollars, not the other way around easily. Super funny. Super funny.
Uh, one thing I did forget to mention that just came to my attention is there was one more barter that I don't have access to. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's the weapons case and thick case barter. So it's Jaeger 4, I believe. And you need for the thick case, you need 2 weapon cases and 2 ammo cases to get 1 thick weapons case.
Okay.
Um, and then for the weapon case barter, you need 5 pistol cases and 5 blue fuel containers.
Get
And this,
a weapons case.
yeah, standard weapon case. And this drove up the price of pistol cases because they were like pushing 10K. Like,
Yeah.
I posted a thing in the ScavTalk Discord. I was like, guys, these pistol cases are really cheap. What do you think about bringing these in raids and like shoving mags and random stuff you
Yeah.
find in raid? And well, there goes that idea.
Because you can put because
'Cause
you can put mags in, can't you? You can put mags in
you
pistol
can put
cases.
mags, you can put certain you can put guns, you can put certain attachments. I forget some of the criteria.
It's funny that we didn't see
Ammo.
people like cycling 60 rounders through them then, in that case.
Well, you can't put in your container. I don't believe. I
Oh,
might be
can you not?
wrong.
Ah,
I
okay.
might be wrong.
I'm not
I would have
sure.
to double check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I'm pretty sure you can't, because I feel like that would have been a
I
thing.
think so too. I think so too. I was
Yeah.
surprised, so it probably is not the case. But yeah, that'd be funny. The case in the container full of mags that are all in the butt, is proper Inception stuff going on.
I told someone in the Discord to make a meme for me where it's a secure container and then it shows the slots and it's a junk box, scav junk box. I don't know. I just thought it'd be funny with like a deep fried meme effect to it, you know.
Nice.
Anyways,
Nice. Oh man.
free containers.
So yeah, so new barters, right? Okay, fine. So those are interesting and cool. We'll have to see what happens with that. Yeah, pistol case has been useless for ages, so it's kind of good that they add stuff. I like it when they add things to make things useful. It means that everything kind of has a place rather than just like selling them to the traders or trying to sell them on the flea really cheaply. As you said, they were like
Hmm.
really, really,
Yeah.
lowly priced on the flea. Very sad pistol cases. I used to keep G18Cs in one, and I just had a container just called Brap, and it was just full of G18Cs, and that was it. It's the only good use I could find for it. I actually did have
Funny.
I had an amazing fight with somebody. Well, it wasn't really a fight. He'd shot me out of. I was trying to do the reserve fuel like marker thing. I want that new quest. I think it's for Ragman or someone. And I just took the G18C. I was like, why not? Just took like a 33 round mag, and some guy like ratted me out of a bush. He was just crouched there with an AK, and I just span round in the pitch black because I went at night as well. Span round in the pitch black and just went. And I was like, is he dead? Is he dead? I just like managed to randomly headshot this guy. I honestly have no idea how it connected, but I have a great fondness for the G18C. It's hilarious. I just find that gun so funny. I just find it so funny.
It's a
It's
fun
not good.
gun.
It's not pretty. It's just
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it's got faster fire rate than the ACP Vector. Like it's
I think
mental.
it's the highest fire
It,
rate gun,
it is
right?
indeed the highest.
You
It
even have
still
a
is the highest.
video.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
But even after the ACB Vector got added, it is still the highest at 1200 RPM versus 11 for the Vector. And you can put 50 rounders in it, right? So it's just like
Hmm.
crazy. And if you don't go in with the stock, then it's extra funny because like after the first like 3 shots, you're shooting the ceiling. So you have to really like drag your mouse around. You can barely see where the aim is going because you can see your guy's hand just like vibrating on the screen. There's something about it that I just find really, really entertaining. And if you die with it, you just don't mind and laugh it off. And when you kill someone with it, it's just the best thing ever. So no, it's good. It is. It is good. It is good. Um, Something I wanted to ask you actually. In the
Yeah.
games that you've been playing so far, have you had more than usual random scav deaths or scavs being like super cracked out of nowhere? Has that happened to you this wipe so far, or not, or just the same old? I've had some really weird times recently, and I just wondered if it was just me.
I can't say honestly from recollection, but I have heard, and I hope I don't steal your thunder, that people are worried that scavs, buckshot is bugged, where the cone is circular. So if you aim for the head at like a certain distance, every pellet will miss because it just
Oh,
goes. It like even though it's a random pattern, it like just goes on the edges of
right.
the cone. So what I wonder is if because scavs are trained, like their AI is, I don't know if it's buckshot has been killing you, but if they're aiming at your stomach or torso, if at distance that cone is going to your head. So do tell, do tell. Have you been
It
eating
actually,
buckshot to the
it,
face?
it actually, it actually isn't buckshot. There's two,
Okay.
there's two events. So there's one on shoreline in the not shoreline, sorry, in woods in the new area. So you know where you have that kind of like swampy village bit, and there's some scavs
Yeah.
that go around in that area. And we were actually not there. We were like in the lakes, just kind of next to it. And I spied a scav over on the other side. And we were like, oh, there's a scav there. And he starts doing like the sideways walk. And he's like all the way across the other side of a lake. And he's got an SKS. And he goes, bang, bang. The second shot clips my friend in the head and just kills him outright. Like shot two out of like a brown SKS.
Yeah.
And Like me and my other buddy just kind of like went to ground and like moved around and ended up killing this guy. But we were like, man, that's like an insane shot. I don't think I've ever seen a scav like just two tap somebody in the head, and it was like far. It was like a decent distance. It was like a good sort of
Okay,
maybe not 100 meters, but it was like a decent distance.
that was my follow-up question because weapon inaccuracy on that scav.
Hmm.
Was the durability like, I'm assuming, you know what I mean? If the durability is 50% and it has that huge cone of
Yeah,
inaccuracy, it's just like, oh,
yeah, it's weird. And
that's
then
kind
and
of
then and then the second one, right, was even more strange. So this one was on woods. And I was helping somebody do the put the bottles and the iskras in the two things, right, in the two bunkers. And
mhm,
we'd been to 14, the one near outskirts already, and placed those ones. And then we were on the other side, the one near the old train station and UN roadblock and that kind of side. And we went down into that one. It's the one that's like in the forest itself. And we went down into that, and there were actually three of us there, did the quest, whatever. And we were like, oh, we can hear somebody upstairs. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna like pop myself out. Um, here was like a scav shout. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it must be a scav then. I pop out and just get instantly two tapped in the thorax and just like insta penned with 545 PS through a level 4 6B 3TM on like 75% durability. It was actually a bit high, maybe like 80% durability. I was like, you what? I was like, I'm dead. And the guys are like, what? And I was like, no, this is an AI scav. Like, it's not a player. I just got randomly tapped by this guy. Maybe I got unlucky as well. I don't know. But like there's just been like some seriously weird scav stuff going on in my raids anyway.
interesting. That part's interesting because I don't think we talked about this, but I did see that some of the labs guys were saying raiders are bugged again because apparently there was a time where raiders were shooting a singular bullet would like register 5 times.
I saw that
So
as well.
I wonder if that's because you said you were wearing a 6B40. What were you wearing?
I was wearing the 6B3TM, the level 4 Ragman level 2 rig.
Yeah, was it 100
Um
durability?
it was
Do you
at
recall?
33 out of 40.
Okay, that's
So it
still
wasn't full,
pretty
but
good.
I went on Battle Buddy and it's 5%.
Yeah,
Right, it's a 5%
yeah.
chance. And I
So
had blunt damage and then a penetration on my thorax.
interesting. Maybe
So
you just
like
got super
but the thing
unlucky.
is, right,
But
there was not
then,
even like we drew aggro somehow in the bunker
mhm,
for this guy, and I don't know how. There was no scav shouting, nothing. I came out and he shouted and like just beamed me instantly as I came up the stairs. There was like,
that's
normally
weird.
there's warning or they like shout
Yeah,
and then they start to move or whatever. It's like literally came out of the thing and he just went bop and I was dead immediately. It was crazy. It was super weird. There was like no time lag, nothing. I was just dead. So we must have somehow aggroed him. Maybe it was like our footsteps or something. I know they can hear you. Um, and maybe they can aggro on you that way. And we were down on the tiles, so it's like really loud. So maybe he heard that and as soon as I came up, he was already like trained on us. Because, like, sometimes if you scav into factory and you're like late and there's no one else, and there's a guy in the office because all the scavs are like looking up through the wall, like wall hacking. Like, have
mhm.
you ever seen that before? Like, maybe it
I've
was like
never
that.
really
Like, he was
noticed it, but
like already trained on me or something, and like literally walked
yeah,
up because like
yeah,
I'd aggroed, and as soon as I appeared, he just went what, and just shot me with like who knows? Maybe it was one, two,
interesting.
maybe it was 5 shots of PS. Because if it was 5 shots simultaneously of 545 PS, like maybe that would have gone through.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Like, and so if raiders are bugged, then there's no reason why scavs aren't necessarily bugged. Normal scavs. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. But there's
yeah.
been some really weird times, like scavs being just like super accurate randomly,
Hmm.
and just like killing my friends like from like miles away and like shot two out of like a busted SKS, like killing me instantly off out of leaving somewhere. Like it's weird. I feel like their aggro range has got it's quite big. I don't know whether it's any different than it used to be, but sometimes they seem to see you from a really really long way away, which I'm actually not opposed to, but it feels slightly different to me. I don't know.
Something
Maybe
feels
they
off.
changed something.
Yeah.
Something feels it's not even off. It's just like it's just different. Like I don't mind. It's just like it's weird actually because when you first start playing and you're like trying to play against scavs and it's really tough because scavs are just like they they kill you way harder than any other AI in most other games that you play. Um,
Yeah.
but once you kind of like where they are kind of going to be and how they're going to act and
Right.
you can kind of
Right.
like play around it, right? And but then like when your expectations are then subverted as like a an
Yeah.
experienced player, that's when you're like, oh, something feels weird because like
Right.
normally I do X, they do Y, and then they die. Now I do
Yeah.
X, and then like I'm dead because something different happened. And it's like I kind of don't mind them changing the AI like that because I don't really like it being so predictable, honestly. But it was just more of an observation. It's been kind of weird. It's been kind of weird.
Yeah, I have to keep an eye out. I like I said, I can't really recall any.
I've only experienced it really when I've been playing with others, though, which is quite
Now,
also quite interesting.
are they extremely low geared? Like pistol
Not
only?
no, not no, no. So everyone's wearing
So
armor and like
no
using a gun. No,
no
like tagged and cursed.
okay. Yeah, but see, tag and curse is a little weird because I don't know. I don't know the rule sets. The rule sets are really weird because if you're missing a few things, you'll still get flagged for tag and curse.
Yeah, I
And
do
I don't
wonder.
know.
I'd have to think actually. Like especially if
I would
someone
think
comes in and brings
armor.
someone else's gear or something. Like we didn't really do that, but like it's not out of the question that someone goes, "Oh, you died in the last raid. I'll bring your stuff out," and then you come into the next one, and then you give them their rig back or whatever, and then it's like, oh, but they came in tagged and cursed because they weren't wearing enough stuff, even though they got the stuff on now.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
impossible.
weird.
It's not impossible. I don't think we've really been doing that. Anyway, it's it's funny. We've had some very, very strange moments.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, 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 yeah. So
Well,
do you have any? I've got more random stuff. If you,
I see in the notes fauna,
yeah.
and that I had to Google it because I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Why is he written fauna in the notes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So please do tell.
it's because somebody on I think it was on Reddit. They made a post about how the only wildlife is birds in
Birds.
Tarkov, and they can give you a bit of a scare. I don't know whether you've ever had a jump scare before from birds, but I definitely have. Normally, it's the shadow of a bird going over the overhead that is what scares me,
Mm.
rather than necessarily the bird itself. Because I'm not really expecting PMCs in the air. Let's be honest, but the shadow of something going over the top can be enough to be like, God, what's that? For a split second. But they were making a very good point actually. There was a good thread on it about how if they included some animals in the game that would be native to the area, and even things like birds that would actually land and stuff in trees or whatever, then when you heard noises, you wouldn't automatically know that it was a player. Because right now, like hearing sound, it can only be a player, or sorry, it has to be like a human of some kind. And you're playing
Yeah.
PMC, you know it's an enemy. But it'd be quite interesting to have like deer or like whatever, like some birds that like sit in trees and stuff, or like if you go near. And I think like other people, not that I've played it, I'm actually quite intrigued to play it, but I've never played Hunt Showdown, and some other people were talking about how
I've
that's
heard
quite
some interesting stuff.
apparently it's quite good. But apparently there's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff in that game which is about it. But I think it would be quite cool. Because again, it's like you want to put that uncertainty in people's minds of like who is that? Is that a person? Is that an animal? Yeah, the bird should come the bird should come down and steal loot. Chat saying you got to shoot them down to get it back.
What
um,
now?
the chat was saying the birds should come down and steal your
Oh, it's
loot. You got
still
to shoot them
loot.
down to get it back. Imagine like you put magpies in the game and they like swoop down and steal a gold chain out of your bag or
That's
whatever.
funny.
But no, I just think it'd be nice to have like a little bit of an extra an extra sort of question mark to think. It'd be quite funny, something spooks you and you just like gun down a deer that's like jumps out of a bush or something. You're just like,
Bambi.
oh, you're like, oh my god, I'm scared me to death. Just like the thing jump out of the bush at me. Um, but that was that really. It was just like what would kind of disrupt the sort of.
Mhm.
I know that like sound isn't perfect in the game, but when you hear something, like it's just less. You
Mixing
want to
it
make
up
people
with
think. Exactly. You want to make people
yeah,
think.
yeah,
You want to make people like think, is it this? Is it that? What do I do?
yeah. Could that be a deer in the bush, or could that be a PMC of an
Yeah,
AP-20 slugs aiming right at me, you know? Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, do I just shoot it anyway? And it might be nothing, but like,
probably.
yeah. So like, it's kind of like it makes you have more interesting choices, and I like choices. I live off choice. I
Yeah,
feed off choices. Provide me more
yeah.
choices. It's great. It's great stuff.
An
So
interesting one.
yeah, that was that. I thought it was a cool idea to like spice up the game.
Yeah.
spice it up a bit. Spice it up a little bit. And I mean, yeah, and the other thing, that I'd kind of thought of through the week, been looking at, and I know that like Veritas
Add actual rats.
actual
Sorry.
that would be cool though. Actual rats would be
It's funny.
awesome. You know,
And then you get the
that'd be
rat
sick.
poison streamer item, and you spray it, and they all go away. That's
That would be cool.
funny.
Having like, yeah, like it would just make like people say Tarkov's a horror game anyway, right? And like that, can you
Yeah.
imagine how spooky that would be? You just like hear like something like rattling around the corner, and you're like,
You hear like the looting sound effect, and then you open up the door, and it's just a bunch of like rats, and then they just scurry away.
yeah,
You think it's like a
exactly,
player looting? That'd be funny. Yeah.
yeah. Or they're like losing a dead player or something, and you're like, oh god, that's
Oh
gross.
my god. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So the other thing that the other thing I wanted to talk about was about the scope changes and stuff because I know like Veritas released this
Hmm.
video about
Yeah, I
scope
saw
changes and things and
that.
just like how
Yeah.
you felt about it because I think like the broad consensus is that they just like they didn't change enough. They didn't do it in the right way. Like the stuff that was like making the good stuff worse wasn't the answer. You know, people wanted like crisp optics and they wanted to get rid of the black ring around the outside and that kind of thing. Um, so I don't know, like I felt that it's been a bit rough, especially because I've been using the RFB quite a bit and it's quite far forwards and you get those effects quite badly on it because the scopes are further forwards, right? So the eye relief is worse on a lot of
Yeah.
those scopes and it feels quite bad even on, and that's the thing, I couldn't quite tell whether it was the gun or um or whether it was the changes that have been made. I've been using the Elcan, and that kind of just feels the
Yeah.
same. I mean, the Elcan's a staple for me. I just use it all the time. I used it all the time last wipe. It was like my go-to of all the scopes, to be honest, because it's like cheap and does what you need, and it's
Hmm.
1 times and 4 times.
Yeah.
Um, and then like obviously you can move up to like the voodoo and stuff like that, or you used to be able to move up to those kind of. I think the voodoo's still okay, but you used to move up to those later, but they were like a bit more expensive, and so I tend to use like the L kind of like a proper like assault scope, like use it on M4 or something.
Right.
I'm not necessarily sniping, but you want the ability to shoot somebody at like 4 times level distance. Don't necessarily need all 6. I tend to find myself not really utilizing 6 that well. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like it's funny. Like I've ended up now only using the delta point from the red dots, which was kind of the way last wipe anyway, but it seems to be the only good one left. And
Yeah.
there's a couple of others I think, but I don't know. It's I am a little disappointed with it, if I'm honest.
I'm
It's just not quite
my
what I wanted.
my issue is like, what's the goal? We never know like what's the goal with BSG, you know? Like
Yeah.
we're reworking optics, great. What's the goal though? Because it seems to me like we just made a few optics shitty and made a few optics less shitty, some of them better maybe.
Yeah.
That's like the issue for me, and this is like this is not just like the scopes.
No,
This
that's
is
kind of what
like
I
a
was just
bigger, broader issue for me.
yeah.
It's just like,
Okay, so here's the thing. I feel like BSG's approach to the game and the design and the development sometimes leads people to the realism thing and being inconsistent about it. Because sometimes they're like, we're doing this change because of realism. Sometimes they're like, we're doing this change because it's real, as realistic as playable.
uh-huh,
And you see the endless comments about, well, this isn't realistic, so we shouldn't put it in like that. And people go, well, realism isn't immersion, and you shouldn't just change it just because it's
right,
realistic. You should change it because it's is immersive. And if it so happens to be realistic, then that's really, really super good. That's fantastic. But like
yeah,
sewing up your stomach isn't realistic, but it's good for gameplay, and it's like it's those kind of things. But the problem is
hmm,
that I don't think BSG necessarily like toes one particular line either. They don't say, well, we're going for maximum immersion. Sometimes they go, oh, well, we're trying to make this then more realistic, but we're just making stuff more crappy as well. I don't think they necessarily help themselves because sometimes it seems to be one, sometimes it seems to be the other. Um,
very,
and I think it confuses the discussion. Uh,
yeah,
if they were like, as you say, if they said, right, here's the goal is to, as they've said before, make things as realistic as playable, but we want to make it playable, right? And make it not even enjoyable, but just kind of like make the gaming experience like you don't want to be worrying about which scopes have got bad eye relief and have like the weird black ring around on the inside. You know, that's just kind of it just kind of sucks, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so maybe the I think in his video he was like, yeah, the validator's not like a he couldn't find any real life images in Veritas's video, right? Of like
Yeah,
someone looking through the scope. And I think because she has said before that that's like an experimental scope. Like I want to say Nikita said this. He was like, yeah, that's like a Russian experimental scope. He doesn't like that it's being used or whatever.
right.
Because it's not a good scope in real life, whatever. Like, fine, you know what I mean? Fine. Like, change the PKO, make it crappy because it's crap. Like, fine, whatever. I don't care. I'll find a different scope.
Yeah.
Why you gotta touch the voodoo, man? What was wrong with the voodoo? The voodoo was so like I felt like I'm actually kind of mad because I was like, let me use the voodoo. And it's like, why is it sitting like 5 feet away from my eye? Like I'm actually really mad about that because now I'm like, all right, now I gotta use the burst fire, which is just like and I don't I just like I what's the like was that is that how okay, is that how it looks like in real life? I don't know. But what like it's just like, oh man. And then it's like, okay, we're gonna rework optics. Some optics are like better with like a certain FOV and some are like worse with a certain FOV.
Yeah.
Why hasn't that been addressed? Like that's like to me that would have been like a great thing to address. I don't know, man. It's just like consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency and
Yeah.
transparency. Those are the 2 things I would love, you know what I mean?
Mm.
If the consistency is, like, realism, fine, it's just try to make that very transparent because when you're saying you're gonna rework optics, I'm thinking, like, "Great, the ACOG is gonna get" and the ACOG did get
It did get a
fr
buff.
from yeah, it did get a
It
a
was
buff.
very, very bad before.
Yeah, it was not optimal, that's for sure. I do remember using it, so it did get a buff. Um Yeah, I don't know, man. That one's a tough subject for me because it's like part of me is just like, God, I really could care less about realism. Just make them fucking usable. Like,
Yeah.
just make the sensitivities 1 to 1. Like, none of this garbage where it's like, the 1 times is higher than like the 6 times. These like weird inconsistencies, and then you use this scope, and then it's like a million times additional sensitivity. Like, it's all really weird how all this stuff crumbles. But
But this is the thing that's so strange, right? Because they're like, we're going to rework all of optics, and then they are just like, here, and it's like, originally they were like, right, we're just going to put them all in, and then like the way that we've done it, some are going to be good and some of them are going to be bad, just like randomly because of just like the way that they fit on the thing and like the eye relief and all this kind of stuff. And then they're like, right, we're going to rework the whole thing, and they're like, right, we're just going to change a load of stuff, and then like off you go. And then you're like,
yeah,
okay, now all we've done is just rolled the dice across the entire selection of optics. Some of them are good and some of them are
right.
bad. Like, you haven't changed anything, really. Like, surely you should have gone through them one by one and made sure they're all like they're all nice. Just make sure they're nice. If you want to make some of them bad, then like that's okay. But don't make the good ones that are still expensive bad. Like that
Yes, the
doesn't.
ones that were like the voodoo, it was fine. Like, there were some issues, like, the 1 times was a little bit higher on the
Yeah.
sensitivity,
And maybe
but
make it like a bit
why?
smaller or something. Like,
Yeah,
sure, it's
just,
okay.
like but
Or
what
or
oh,
or why not just address the actual problem, which is the fact that you can't put the scope where you want on the rail?
that's the thing. When they say they're reworking optics, expectations, there's a wide range, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, are they gonna do, like, this really, like, high level thing where it's like we have a lot of control and, like, this, like, really advanced system? Or are they just gonna flip a bunch of die?
I feel like we just re-rolled our thing. It's just like, right,
Yeah,
here's
yeah, no,
you've just like
100%,
yeah, you
100%.
just like you've rolled Tarkov and here's all the scopes. It's like this
Yeah.
one good, this one bad, this one good, this one bad. And they're like, right, we're gonna re-roll optics, everyone. And you're like, okay, fine. Just Nikita with a huge can of dice. But yeah, Voodoo 1, Delta Point 6, PKO
I
6 1. It's just
uh,
like, oh my goodness, what? It's just
I
really
don't know,
weird.
man.
It's really weird. So
There is,
yeah,
like, a serious issue with, like, the gap between the developer and the player, and this probably exists, outside of Tarkov, but for whatever reason, in Tarkov, it is a really big gap, I feel like. I've not played a game that's just, like like patch note, we changed stuff, and then it's like, what the fuck just happened? This game is like, you know what I mean? And it's like
What?
sometimes like a really cool change, and sometimes just like, what the, you know? It's
Like, what?
so
Why did they change it like this? That's the question that I have,
I
like, for
don't
most
know.
of the time when I'm looking at some of the ones that are really, really bad now, and I'm like, why did they change it like this? Like, there was one scope that is like really divisive, is the prism 2.5 times, which I came to really, really like, honestly. And like every video I was using it in, people are just like, "Can we talk about the scope you're using in this video?" And I'm just like, dude,
Yeah,
it's actually okay. Like,
it's not bad.
there
I was
isn't another
also a
like
Prism guy.
the little bit in the middle, like the reticle
Yeah,
bit, is not like, it's not amazing, but it's not too bad. Like I find
yeah,
I can shoot with it pretty easily, and it was really clear. And there isn't another 2.5 times in the game, so it's
right.
like sometimes it's like the distance that you want. Like I don't always want 1 and 4. Sometimes 2.5 is good.
Yeah,
And the monstrum's like looking through a thimble on the screen because it's so tiny.
yeah,
Whereas the prism was always like nice and big, and I
right.
thought it was just because I was using it on the RFB, because I never used it on the RFB before until this web, and I was like, oh, it's a bit. And then I watched the video, and I was just like, no, they nerfed my boy, no.
And the other thing I liked about it was the sensitivity change was almost non-existent as far as I could tell.
So it was
Like, it
nice
didn't
to
have
use.
any, like
Yeah.
yeah, and I put up with it because I'm like, "Okay, well," because
Mm.
I used to have a bug where the Valde, the 1 times was really high, and then the 6 times was really low,
I have that.
and then for whatever yeah, and then for whatever reason, like, a few patches later, it's fixed, and then it's
Yeah.
like but, like, that was the weird thing, it was like, my buddies didn't have that issue, but I had that issue, and I don't know why, that's it's like anyways, development,
Yeah.
the struggles of,
Yeah.
of game and beta, but,
So I was kind of saddened by that, because that's a really nice
yeah,
budget scope, I think, because you can buy it early. It's like Scare 2 or something, and it's like 20K, so it's actually
yeah,
good. But it's like, oh, do I want to use it with the black ring around the outside now? It's just like,
uh
oh, why? So I just don't understand. Like, I just don't understand.
So, yeah, maybe the goal is because I did notice a lot of the scopes have a black ring now. Like, I even think the ACOG, if I remember correctly, the old one didn't have a black ring, and now the new one does,
I think
but
so.
it's very subtle, very subtle. So I think they're trying maybe perhaps what they're trying to do is and I think the Voodoo as well has this
Yeah.
very subtle ring where it used to not have one at all. I think they're
Now,
trying to keep that consistency part. Whether
maybe,
that's good or not, I
yeah,
you know,
maybe
whether
I'm
we
wrong
like it, I
here.
should say.
Maybe I'm wrong here, but my understanding from real life, and I'm not an expert, was that you don't get that
Actually,
black ring unless your eye relief is actually incorrect. Like if you're
huh?
up at the scope at the proper distance, I don't think you should get that. I don't think. I've used one scope in my life, and it
Mhm,
is the British Army one, the
mhm.
SUSAT, which is like, the one, the Russian side-mounted one with the thing, the
It's
post sticking
inverted.
down. It's a bit like that, yeah. But it's like, I
Yeah,
mean, it's complete crap. But like that's
yeah,
the only
yeah, I know
scope
you're
I've
talking
used, and
about.
you don't get that on that for sure. And the pictures I've seen on the internet from other scopes also doesn't have it, like when it's in the right position, and people are like, they've got the camera thing. Like if you go
Right.
and look at the ACOG pictures online, it's like nice big reticle, like purely clear. And people say that like it's difficult to look through an ACOG because you have to have your head in like just the right place. But the site picture is like perfectly clear, and it's like right to the edge, and like you wouldn't design a scope like that otherwise. I don't think it just
But
seems weird. So
perhaps the goal is to have that effect happen whenever you move, because that's when it's, like, the worst when you're strafing.
that I'm okay with.
Yeah, but you're saying
That I'm
just
okay with.
stationary, you don't
Yes,
like
I'm
the
thinking stationary. I don't think it should be there. Like maybe I'm wrong, and
yeah.
maybe someone will be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this. But
Mhm.
I think if you're stationary and you're like purposefully looking down the scope, and you're you know targeting something specifically, if you're not moving around, I don't think you should get that effect. I really don't. Um, but yeah, maybe I'm wrong. But moving though, absolutely fine, right? It's hard to look down a scope. Have you ever played? Have you ever actually? Oh, this is going to be like a random tangent, but it is very
Yeah, go for
related.
it.
Have you ever used VR? Have you actually used VR at this point?
Yes, actually, yes.
Interesting. Have you ever played a game called Onward?
No. Is
So
that the
Onward,
military one?
it is. It's a little bit like, uh, I guess it's the most milsimmy VR game I've seen.
Yeah. There's another one, I
Um,
forget the name.
I don't remember
Pavlov,
what
is
the other
it?
one's called. I think it might be. I think I couldn't get that one to work. Anyway, I got Onward to work, and there's a range on Onward, and there is like it is slightly unfair because there are some issues with the way that it's like the way that VR just is right as a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I'll get into in a second. But like you can use a bunch of different guns, bunch of different scopes, and try it out, and it's quite cool because you have to hold the gun with both hands. So you have the you have like the trigger bits, and then you have to like squeeze with both hands, and that holds the gun, and then you like bring it up to your eye, and you have to line it up with your eye, and it's like it's actually not that easy when you're moving
Yeah.
around to keep the weapon like aligned with your eye so that you can actually look through the scope. So that's kind of why I'm okay with it. The one big problem with VR that I would say, actually, if given that we're on the topic, is that when your hands are just floating in the air and there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
to hold on to, it makes it extra, extra, extra hard. And you almost kind of need like a weapons chassis because normally, right, if you're holding a real gun,
Yeah.
you'd have
You
it
can
like the
shoulder
stock
it.
into your shoulder, you'd have the pistol grip
Right.
held, you'd have the the foregrip or whatever, even just like the front if you've got no foregrip or something, and you'd have it all like braced in, and then you could like lean
Right.
your head in and like look through. Um, Whereas, like, yeah, in VR, like, especially if you're stood up as well, it's just like super floaty. I ended up fighting predominantly from a crouched position because I could
Mm-hmm.
rest my elbow on my knee and then use my other arm like tucked in to like hold it steady because otherwise you're
Yeah.
just like it's just so difficult.
Wobbling everywhere.
And after like 20 minutes, you're like, man, I've just had my arms like outstretched for like 20 minutes. It gets harder than you'd expect quite
Oh my
quickly.
god.
And yeah, when you're trying to look through a 4x, like with your hands floating with nothing to reference, it's like it's really,
Yeah.
really tough. But anyway, so my experience of using that, I was like, well, you can kind of see the thing in EFT of like, it's difficult to keep your aim down it, but if you're stationary, it's fine. But if you're moving around, like if you're trying to move and shoot through it 4 times, it's like not straightforward for somebody that's not used to it. Um, so I think that's like, yeah, it's okay in principle. Maybe they're intending to change it further in future. I hope this isn't it. I hope this is like iteration one of the optics rework, as opposed to
Yeah.
just like, here you go, everybody, it's fixed, and everyone's like, no.
I think it will get better. I just yeah, I mean, don't want to be a dead horse, but just I just like craving some more communication from BSG, you know. And I guess I don't know if they're just afraid of that or what the issue is there. If it's like translation, maybe don't have a right person for the right job. I don't know. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's a tough one. I did check the TAC 30 and the Voodoo in the hideout just now, and they do
Mm,
have a ring, and it does wobble
yeah.
a bit. The shadowing of the ring.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. I didn't use Attack 30 much last fight, but I used the Voodoo a lot, and definitely the Voodoo did not do that before, from what I can recall. But yeah. So we'll see on that. I do have one last thing before we wrap up, unless you got anything else.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Let's see if I can find it. I was looking at Twitter and I saw some people were asking why people are complaining about the hydration event, you know? And I was wondering this, like, I think you mentioned in the intro, like when we were starting the show, that people were complaining. And I'm like, really?
Yep.
Why are people like, I mean, but when we talked about it, I think it kind of makes sense because there's sort of like a split, you know, there's that one group that's like struggling, doesn't have the flea market, doesn't have that access. And they're like, this sucks. You know what I mean? I have to go like this sucks. They're playing a different game, if you will. And then the other group is like, this sucks. This literally just means I spend more money and put a filter in my container, you know.
Yeah.
So or a aquamarine in my container.
I
Like
knew what you
it's not
meant.
very interesting. So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting how I can kind of see why both parties are complaining because that was my complaint initially was like, hey, this is cool. I'm really glad you guys are doing this. But I like the concept, but you know, I just spend a little bit more money. It doesn't really like it hasn't really changed me that much personally.
Yeah.
Whereas for the other, you know, the level 19 guy, good God, poor guy, he can't even buy any drinks from therapists. It seems like.
Which is
Ish.
reason why I think like removing it from the flea would be great, and removing
Get
water bottles
everyone.
from therapists is incredibly mean.
Yeah.
Because removing it from therapist, all that does is hurts the new people and doesn't hurt the
Yeah.
experienced people. That's not what we're trying to do, BSG. Leave the new players alone. Like,
Yeah.
God, please just help them out a little bit. Like, come on, just like punish everybody, but punish the experienced players more. Like, that's fine. Like, all we can all
If you
suffer
can.
together. It's
Yeah.
okay if you
Yeah.
can. Like, deleting it from the flea is fine. The new players don't even have it on the flea. You have your 3 bottles from therapist. That's fine. If you run out of
Right.
those, you have to go and find them. Great. The Chad players can also, they'll have to do the same thing. Like that's fine. Just deleting them, like not deleting them from the flea and deleting them from therapists is like the
Yeah, it doesn't
worst.
really.
That's the worst possible choice.
Yeah. I kinda
Yeah.
I yeah, sometimes I feel like the Tarkov experience is the new player experience, and then the game just, like, crumbles past that. 'Cause like,
Yeah.
I'm it's such a weird thing too because it is a multiplayer game. Like, I could see that being a thing for, like, a single player game, but since it is, like, a purely multiplayer environment game,
Yeah.
kind of a weird thing, but, yeah,
It is trial by fire. That is Tarkov.
yeah, for real.
Absolutely. It's like it's one of those things. It's like the learning experience and I don't know, getting better at stuff. It's good in some ways. Like I said with this previously, we were talking about the release of 1.0, but I am slightly jealous of the people who are going to come into Tarkov like
Mhm.
fresh, and
Yeah.
it's all kind of like they get to experience everything, and it's like it's super cool
All
because it
at
was like
once.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
my friends I was playing with the other day, and
Uh-huh.
some of them like had literally never played on reserve, and they're having like the time of their life because it's like a completely
Wow.
new map, like it's all completely new to them, like they're having fun, like exploring, learning stuff. Like it's just
Yeah.
if you're that way inclined, like learning new things is just super cool. I really like learning new stuff, and I like trying to learn things first myself, and then once I've kind of
Yeah.
like reached or explored the limits of kind of what my like own personal little experience gets me, then I like to broaden out and go, right, what has everyone else done? And it's like, oh, that's cool. I would never have thought of that. Or like, oh, this
Yeah.
is super sick. This guy's thought of this like really cool way. Because like you're never going to find everything out yourself, but I enjoy the experience of actually finding out like as much as I can myself, and then broadening it out to the community. And that's the thing. It's like you on your own are never going to find out what 10,000 people all playing the game are going to find out together. Which is
Yeah.
why it's important to be part of that community and not be stubborn about it. But I like to retain an element of that kind of independence, so to speak, but just because it's entertaining. I literally just find it entertaining. Honestly, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's great. I'm kind of the same way except for, like, proper competitive esport games, then I'm just like, "Okay, well, screw all the discovery part and the learning experience. Let me just fast track my way to, competitiveness." But,
That is, yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of true. Yeah, I suppose actually, yeah.
Yeah.
That probably is. That probably is.
Tarkov's a bit different because it's definitely not that, like, competitive. I mean, you are competing for stuff in the raid, but there is a bit of a like, the experience part of it, like, the lore and, like, the environment and, like, the
Yeah.
storytelling, all of that stuff really adds to it, you know? I don't really wanna, like I wouldn't wanna part of me would be like, "Yeah, go read the wiki," but the other part of me would be like, "Go play Factory and get your PMC kills with that
Well, that's the
pistol."
thing. Like the way that I did it was, and it did probably hamper my progression as a player, but I
Mhm,
played a lot on my own and with one other person right at the beginning, and read the wiki a lot, but didn't watch any YouTube, didn't watch any streamers or anything.
mhm, yeah,
And
yeah,
so it
I was the
was like,
same.
here's the and that's the way that I like to do this stuff, right? And this is what I find fun. Here's the rule book, and here's the game. And it's like, the
Mm,
rule book says this, and then how does this actually apply? And I'm like thinking, okay, well then this and this, maybe, da, 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 da. And then eventually once
yeah,
I've kind
you
of like
start
figured most of it out, then I'm just like, okay, well I have these questions that I haven't been able to answer, and it's going to take too long to test or whatever, and like let's go and look it up or like see what people think, and you find out no one knows, but it's that's Tarkov for you. Let's talk for
I
you.
love it. That reminds me of, like, when I was looking at the ammo chart. I'm like, here's a rule book of the ammo charts," and then I see this one called, like, 9 by 19 or 9 by 18 PBM. It's, like, the high
Yeah.
cartridge one, and I was like, "Oh, then this can only go for that one gun." I was like, felt so cool, like I was like min-maxing, the flea market and everything. So it was a fun experience, good times.
It's good. Like those little things, those little intricate things are just like they're nice. They're really
Yeah,
nice.
for
Yeah,
sure.
it's what keeps me going with it all. It's still fun now. I like the changes, and I'm still always find stuff to learn. Right, like the maps are so intricate, and like it's more
Mhm.
subtle now. So it's less like
Yeah,
making big
yeah.
leaps, but it's like finding out new spots. And again, it's like it is a bit more community oriented than like just you yourself. But it's like you watch somebody and they like have a spot somewhere, and you're like, oh, that is so
Yes.
sneaky. And you're like, okay, I'll like
Yeah,
introduce that into my own game and stuff. Like, and that's fun. I like that too. When you spot
yeah.
something that like no one has seen before. There was actually there was one that came out on I think it was on Twitter. Somebody posted it up, and it was like one of the ones. And I was like, oh, I'm actually quite pleased because I noticed that myself, which was like the gate. What's it called? The seller's extract on factory, where you can actually see through the grate, and you can excuse me, you can see somebody who's extracting at the seller's gate from
Oh,
the like
yes.
factory ground floor. And I noticed
Yeah,
this myself. I was like, huh, you can actually see up there, but never really
yeah,
thought too much of it. And then I saw a clip of
right.
someone killing someone down there, and I was like, that's how you use it.
That's
Nice.
cheeky.
Yeah. So it's yeah, it's good. It's good. The learning experience is just like such an interesting thing. Such an interesting thing.
Sure.
It's cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, I think that wraps it up for today. Yeah, good show, good stuff. Hopefully next week, maybe I get a response from you and on the FIR cache, that is. I'm really
Yes.
curious about this because I've there's been some discussion in the Discord, the ScavTalk Discord, and it's got the wheels a turning for sure.
Yeah,
I
I need
love
to
it.
give it some more. I actually do need to genuinely give it some more thought and think through some of the ramifications because it's
Yeah.
an interesting one. But that's a good segue into the closer of the Scav to Discord is now open and live. We have a couple of people in there now chatting away. So come check it out, see what's up, chat to us. It's
Yeah.
um it's gonna be a fun time, I think. Church is probably a much better admin of the Scav Talk Discord than I am of my own Discord. So it's
Hardly. I have to remind myself, what are the rules again that I wrote so I don't break the rules? Too funny.
yeah, trying to break your own
Alright.
rules. It's
Yeah, gotta set a good example for the fellow cheeky breakies.
exactly. So yeah, come check it out. I'm sure we'll have some fun in there, and we'll just kind of see where it goes, I suppose.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for everyone's support, listening. Really appreciate everyone. Like the growth's been awesome to see for the channel and the audio listeners. Really appreciate you guys. I forgot again to get to the messages. I'm really sorry, guys. They're in the logs. So next week, remind me, Giga. It's on you now, so I can blame you and not myself.
I'm gonna write it down now. I'm gonna write it down
Oh
right
man,
now
that is such a five head play. Why didn't I think of that?
because this is the
Ah, it's
only
good.
way that I manage through life, day to day. There we go. It is written down. It is carved into the
There
stone
we go.
tablet that is the Scav Talk discussion board.
So now we get to blame GigaBeef next time.
No, I get to blame me rather than Church.
Maybe
I'm
we'll
not
do it
that.
at the start. We'll do it at the
Yeah,
start.
we'll do it at the
Unless
start.
there's like,
We'll
yeah.
do news, then we'll do it at the start.
Unless BSG just does something wild, it's something completely wild. Like they removed, I don't know, water from flea market, then maybe we
Yeah,
won't.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
All right. Well, good stuff. Thanks everyone for tuning in again. And we'll catch you next week.
See you later, everyone.